and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yay! All right. Welcome this morning to our speechathon. At the moment, it looked like we have 4 of our speakers. No? Yeah, 4 of our speakers. No, we don't have 4. I see 3. Wait. Yeah. We have 3 of our speakers. God's on his way. I sent Kara a message. She didn't answer me. Well, our department had an event Saturday, and I think she took off today because she was here Saturday. But I sent her an email. I sent her a group me message. She didn't answer me. I don't know if she's coming or not. But we're going to move on. In the interim, because this was a speechathon, I didn't assign formal evaluators to everybody. Timing box over here. I'm in the timer, Dave. I'm the timer.
Okay.
I'm the timer. Oh, where my book is. Yeah. Okay. All right. I don't know where all our members are today, but we're going to move on. All right. Because it's supposed to be a speechathon, I didn't assign formal evaluators. But if you want your speech evaluated, hold up your manual. Okay, you have Charlie's manual?
I'll do Dave.
All right. Who has me on manual? Okay, Dave, who's evaluating you?
I'll do Dave.
Yes, Adrian.
Dave?
I'll see.
All right. Scott can be evaluated by Patricia when he gets here.
Right.
No, you don't have to do a spoken evaluation, just written.
All of these are written evaluations.
These are written evaluations so they can have evaluators.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
All right, now we have that taken care of. The other thing is, you can do that part. About the general evaluation? Okay. Explain. Whatever you want to do about it, because you brought it up. Oh, we were emailing each other. You brought it up. You can do whatever you want about it. Okay. Now, I'm going to turn it over to our Toastmaster today, distinguished Toastmaster Philip Borden.
With enthusiasm.
Thank you. Good afternoon. It is a pleasure to be here for any HealthMasters meeting, especially our once or so a year speechathon meeting where we squeeze in as many speeches as we can, try to make that a special event. We did get the word out about this meeting. There's at least one guest that I was planning on seeing that I haven't seen yet. We will move forward with the meeting in trust that if there are any guests who are on their way, including Scott, maybe Carol Jackson, who may be on their way, that they can make their way in and join the festivities. If not, we'll get out a little early. There's no downside. Our first, I do want to explain the idea that we had about the general evaluator, because we didn't build in time on the agenda to have spoken evaluations for all 5 speeches. I had the idea that for the benefit of any guests that would be here, to give them a taste of what the evaluation component of a Toastmasters meeting is like, that we would assign someone to be the general evaluator, not to give individual evaluations of all the speeches, but just let us know something of the meeting as a whole, some observations and encouragement to pass along. And I had mentioned Adrian Duncan as the person to do that. I don't know, did you get the word? Okay, so it's not in the, let me see. It's in the agenda after all of our scheduled speeches. I will ask Adrian to come up and just give us some observations and maybe a little bit more explanation for our guests about how Toastmasters does evaluation in lieu of having detailed evaluations of all of our speakers. Having said that, we're also foregoing a couple of other things that we normally do in a Toastmasters meeting, and we're jumping right into the first scheduled speech. It is a speech that I've heard a little bit of the material on. I know a little bit of what the content of this speech is going to be. It is speech number 8, Get Comfortable with Visual Aids, from the Competent Communication Manual. The speech title is How to Remember Names and Faces. Very helpful and interesting information, and it is a speech by, what's his name? The guy in the middle there. How to Remember Names and Faces. Help me welcome Toastmaster David Vrudny.
Have you ever met someone and then like 5 seconds later you cannot remember their name? Yes. Can that be a little bit embarrassing? Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, in the next few minutes you're going to learn a very powerful technique you can use, very practical, very easy to remember. A 6-year-old can do this. To remember names and faces with ease. It might be amusing, but it's very powerful. Have you ever heard of Ron White? Not the comedian, Scott, but Ron White, the memory champion. He's the 2-time memory champion of the United States, Ron White. He teaches a very powerful technique, and it involves 5 concepts. Focus, file, picture, action, review. Let's say this together. Focus, file, picture, action, review. We're going to cover these, but this is the overall concept of how you're going to be never forgetting a face ever again. Always remembering the name, always remembering the face associated with that name. The first step is focus. Have you ever found yourself talking to someone in a conversation and they tell you their name and you just weren't listening? But would it be wise to say, I wasn't listening? Well, what was your name again? That probably wouldn't be a good idea, but that's the honest truth. So what we want to do is we want to get focused, because if we're not focused, we'll never be in the mindset to remember the name. So how do we get focused? How do we warm up our brains to be receptive to what the person's name is? We do one thing. Ask ourselves a question over and over again. The question is, saying to ourselves, not out loud, but to ourselves, what is this person's name? 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 And when you do that, get in the habit of doing that. Because when you get in the habit of doing that, your mind will be focused. Be very receptive to remembering the person's name. Step 2 is file. Now, why do we have files? Why do we have folders? What's the purpose of having a file? Right. Work with our brains. It helps us be organized. It helps us retrieve information, right? Whether it's a file in our computer, a file in our cabinets, we can quickly retrieve information. The same thing to quickly retrieve information is how our brains work. And we only use like 3% of our brains. But what we want to do is we want to find a file on people's face. A file is a landmark that is distinguishing on someone's face. What's the file on Jay Leno's face? The chin, right? Jay Leno's chin is distinguishing. What about Dave Letterman? What's distinguishing about Dave Letterman's face? Gap in his tooth. Right? There's Adrian has the beard. There's distinguishing features. If you look at everyone's face, there's something distinguishing. Their ears, their nose, there's always something if you look. And that's the file. You've got to have a file, because if you don't have a file on the face, you'll never remember it. Just like you're trying to find your taxes, you have no files. Your taxes are all over the floor. You'll never find it. You have to have, right? Isn't that right? You have to have an organized way to find those taxes. Number 2 is file. Step 3 is picture. Have you ever found that you look at someone's face, you're like, I know that face, but I just cannot pinpoint the name? You know why that is? It's because the brain sees pictures. We see the face, but do we see the name? You don't see the name. My name's Dave, but you see Dave. No, you don't see Dave. So what we want to do is we want to turn the name into a picture so that we can see the name. Does this make sense so far? Yes. So remember, step 3 is picture. For example, my name is Dave, and for every Dave that I'll ever meet is Cave. Dave and Cave. You want to associate every name with a picture. Dave is Cave. Aaron Potto Evans is not here today, but Aaron, for every Aaron I meet, Aaron is air gun. Aaron is air gun. And Joyce. Joyce is juice. Every Joyce you will meet, remember juice. Joyce is juice. Step 4 in the process is action. Do you remember driving to work today? Do you remember anything interesting today? Or is it kind of a blur? But do you remember the time you got into a car accident? Can you remember a time you ever got in a car accident? Do you remember that pretty well? And the reason is because our minds remember things that are crazy. We remember things that are sexual. Remember things that are violent. Remember things with a lot of action, a lot of emotion, right? And we want to use that to our advantage. So you want to use that to your advantage. Remember things with action and emotion. So let's say next week we have a guest that comes up to you after the meeting at HealthMasters. And here's the guest. Now what's distinguishing about this guest's face? He's bald. And let's say he tells you, well, first step is, what's step number 1? Focus. So ask yourself, what's his first name? What's his first name? What's his first name? And he says his name is Dave. And so remember Cave. So what you want to do is you want to put the picture Cave onto the file, onto the distinguishing feature, onto his bald head. But you want to have it very crazy and emotional. So imagine a huge cave opening up in his head with vampire bats flying out and the blood is coming out all over the place. Vampire bats, blood, the cave is opening, visual image. And if you have the image powerful enough, you'll never forget it. So if you don't have the image strong enough, you won't remember it. A little cave won't work. But a powerful image like that, Dave, Cave. So let's say the next guest comes in. Now for me, I see the ears. You might see the jawbone, but let's look at the ears. The ears are kind of distinguishing. So he says his name is Aaron. So imagine an air gun, which you saw earlier, shooting out of his ears. Bullets are shooting out of his ears. Loud bullets. Even hear it. More senses you have, the better. Hear it, taste it, smell it. As much as you can, it will connect with the image. And the third guess, what is distinguishing about this particular guest's face? Eyes. And she says her name is Joyce. So imagine, since Joyce is juice, orange juice squirting out of her eyes. And it coming right in your face. You can smell that juice. You can taste the juice. Just see that crazy image. Orange juice squirting out of her eyes. Just see that crazy image. Let's review. Bald head, Cave, Dave. Ears, air gun, Aaron. Eyes, juice, Joyce. Got that? Review. Because that's the 5th step. 5th step is review. What you want to do every day is you want to ask yourself, who did I meet today? What is this distinguishing feature on that person's face and all the people's faces that I met? And then what image do I associate with that distinguishing feature? Every Dave you meet will be a cave. Every Joyce is juice. Every Aaron is air gun. So the next time you meet someone new, remember, focus, file, picture, action, review. And if you go to this website, easynamememory.com, write that down, easynamememory.com, you can find a list for free of the 50 most common names with pictures. 50 most common names with pictures. Ron is Run, Margaret is Margarita. It's amazing. You're now well on your way to building relationships with a room full of people, well on your way to remember names and faces with ease. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Dave. Very helpful information. Just imagine in your next job interview, you meet 5 new people in total. people, the person who lets you in the door, the person you're interviewing, maybe that person's supervisor. What if you remembered all 5 of those people's names as you're walking out the door, as you follow up? Do you think that might make you stand out as a job candidate? Very helpful information. Well, I have my own way of remembering the name of our next speaker. He is here to present his speech titled The Power of Positivity. It's speech number 10 in the Competent Communication Manual, which is the Inspire Your Audience speech. Here to present The Power of Positivity, help me welcome Scott the Man Gann.
Oh, I like it. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Good afternoon. How is everyone? How many people in this room know a negative person? Come on, raise your hands. You all know. You have that negative person in your life, right? And every time you're next to that negative person, what do? They bring you down just a little bit, don't they? They take your good day and make it just a little bit bad. How dare they? What were they thinking? Well, now raise your hand if you know a positive person. Everyone has a positive person in their life, right? So here's what I want you to do. Everyone look up, right up there to the red screen. I want you to close your eyes. Close them tight, no peeking, no cheating. Now I want you to imagine a rainbow. You'll see the rainbow? You see all the colors? Now here's the power of negativity. I'm colorblind. I can't see those colors. Takes that little rainbow that's in your vision right now just to black and white, doesn't it? Now erase it. It's difficult, right? You're still seeing black and white. Now I want you to see all the colors. Bright colors. Red, orange, purple, green. Are you seeing them? Does it make you feel better just a little bit? It's bright. Sunshine's coming out. The clouds are gone. Makes you feel better, doesn't it? Everyone feels just a little bit better than you did 30 seconds ago when we were talking about black and white and cloudy days, doesn't it? Now you can all open your eyes. In 30 seconds, we went and explored the power that positivity has on your life. Now everyone in this room has a choice. You can be around Mr. Negative, which was me this morning because it's Monday. I didn't want to come to work, right? I have a stack of license on my desk. I have 15 meetings. And I have a speech that I felt prepared for, but then I wasn't prepared for it, right? All this stuff's going on. I'm not focused. But then I run into Dave. And I think about Dave. And if you ever want to think about having a bad day, I want you to think of Dave Rundy. Okay? Dave pops into my head and he says, it's just a day. It's a day that you're employed, right? I'm employed. And then Adrian pops in my head. And Adrian says, what in the world are you thinking? Seriously? We get involved in our own emotions. And then Joyce says, you better not be late. And guess what happens? I'm late. Philip is my file right here. This man can process more information in 10 minutes than I can in a year. I'm trying to remember everyone's names like Dave and Cave. But who wants to be negative? Nobody, right? I hope not. Who wants to be positive? Do you know where positivity starts? It starts when you get out of bed in the morning. It starts for the fact that we opened our eyes. It starts with the fact that we get to start a day. Because there's a whole lot of people this morning that didn't. We got to come to work. We weren't home stuck with a sick child. We weren't at home stuck with sick parents. We got to come to work. Now, sometimes it's a daunting task, isn't it? Sometimes coming to work on a Monday, knowing that there are a whole lot of problems over the weekend, can be very daunting. And so that negativity, that wonderful negativity that we all know, starts creeping up just a little bit. How many people drove to work? You have a car, and you made it. Is that something to be positive about? So what about Mr. Negativity that came in and sat right next to you this morning because it's Monday and I don't like you? Because the Grinch stole Christmas. What do we do? How do we combat that? Can anyone guess how we combat that? You can. I don't think anyone in this room goes through a day that we're not presented with problems, right? Life is full of challenges. And I read a sign yesterday, actually, walking through a store, that said, it's not the moments that take, it's not the breaths that we take in a day, but the moments that take our breath away. Y'all have all seen it, right? Nice spiritual phrase. And sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it seems impossible for us to think about those moments that take our breath away. Now for me, I got to come over here. I got to see everyone. You brighten up my day just a little more. Because I went from negative this morning, on Monday morning, with a stack of license, with a stack of ideas that I have to get through, and 12 meetings that Lord knows we all attend. We got through it. I got over here. Forgive me, I was late. Y'all all saw it. Fat boy coming in the green shirt. You can't miss me. That's why I wear bright colors. I don't try to hide anymore. But I can't wear red. Because when I do, I look like the Kool-Aid man. And everyone starts laughing. Positivity. So I want you to take this. 4 minutes you've heard this over and over and over. And I want you to be a little more positive today. I want you to smile at someone that maybe doesn't have one. Maybe put a hand on their shoulder. Let them know that you care. Sometimes that's too close, right? Be crazy over here. Don't touch me. Get away from me. And that's okay. Everyone has our bubbles, right? But as long as they know that we're here, that we care, we will do something for you if we can. Sometimes that's all we need. Sometimes it'll take the person off the ledge. Let's be positive. Let's make a change. Mr. Toastmaster.
All right, great job. After that speech, I don't feel quite as bad about my printed agenda back there. If you picked up a copy on the table, I was feeling sorry for myself, rushing to this meeting because I didn't have a chance to print agendas until 1 minute before the time for the meeting start, and there was hole punched paper in the copier. Now I have a whole different attitude about the holes punched in the paper. I am happy to give you this gift today of holes punched in your printed agenda. No extra charge for the the holes printed in your agenda today. Our next speaker is Charlie Simpson, here to present speech number 7 in the Competent Communication Manual, which is the Research Your Topic speech. You're about to hear from a relationship coach, a relationship expert who's appeared on THV 11 and Fox 16, here to encourage us with his speech titled Creating a Healthy Map, M-A-P, Creating a Healthy Map. Welcome, Charlie Simpson.
Thank you, Mr. Postmaster. We are going to talk about everyone's favorite topic, relationships. Oh boy, here we go. So let's start off with a question. What do you feel is the biggest cause of divorce? Let's hear it. Money. Communication. Selfishness. Lack of communication. Mistrust. Sex. Kids. Lack of sex. No one says social media. That's interesting. Everybody. I get a lot of cases where social media really impacts relationships, but unfortunately, none of those are the right answers. None of those are the right answers. The number one predictor of divorce is when a couple becomes emotionally disconnected. Think about that. If me and my partner are not emotionally connected, every little thing bothers you. The kids, lack of sex, poor communication. When you don't see your partner in a positive light, then you become easily irritated, annoyed. And then the relationship begins to go downhill. So what we're going to do today is learn how to build a healthy map. M-A-P. There we go. You have a couple. He's sitting there with the woman trying to give the directions. He's frustrated. And typically, that's how I see couples. Two different places. But what we're going to do is learn how to develop a healthy map, M-A-P. M stands for manage conflict. When you're communicating, there are 4 things that you should never do during an argument. What do you think those are? One thing you should never say or do during a conflict. What is that? Always. Yeah. Always. What was that? Blaming others. Don't call them out their names. Now, fortunately, all of you all are right on that one. So the first one is you should never criticize. Whenever you say the word you, chances are what comes after that is going to be a critical remark or something that's going to be blaming. And so what you want to practice is being able to use what we call general startups, where you start the sentence with an I statement. Right now, I'm feeling disconnected because you're on your phone, and what I really need at this moment is for us to try to spend some quality time. General startup. The second one that I heard was defensiveness. So if I hear somebody criticize or blame me, instantly I'm going to do what? Say, well, I'm going to protect myself. I'm going to defend myself. No, I'm not the wrong one here. You are. And this is why you're wrong. And then we find ourselves in this criticizing, defending cycle. And then next thing you know, you're mad at each other. Hopefully there's no physical abuse. But then you just walk away and you're more angry than you were before the conversation even started. The third one is contempt. And that is where we feel superior than our partner. We're telling them, I don't understand how you could do that. Why would you do that? Or a little small comment or a little jab. I'm not going to ask who does this, but man, you just like your mom. Just like your dad. Contempt. I can see people smiling. I'm not going to look at you. I'm going to look this way. The last one is what we call stonewalling. And that's when we just shut down and we just disconnect from the conversation. Now, typically what happens with stonewalling is you sit there during an argument and your partner is yelling or arguing, whatever, and you're just sitting there, yeah, you're right. Yeah, okay. I agree. Okay, you're right. And words are just going in one ear and out the other. And at that moment, we've shut down and we're really not connecting at all. Managing conflict. Can we find ways to avoid those four? And if I had more time, I would go into being able to explain how that can be accomplished. But due to time, I'll save that one for next time. A, avoid being roommates. I cannot share with you all the amount of young couples that I have that talk about their parents not even sleeping in the same room. Been married 30, 40, 50 years and don't even sleep in the same room. Now, some of them may have a medical condition, which may explain some things. And others may just say, hey, I'm so frustrated with this person. I'm just going to go through the motions in our marriage. We're old, so we can't start all over. Let's just deal with each other, right? What we have to do in order to avoid being roommates is what we call turn toward each other. And what we mean by that is, in a relationship, a person will put out what we call a bid of connection. And that bid of connection is saying, hey, I'm trying to connect with you in a moment. It could be something small as flirting, just talking about something that's happening in the news. There's a lot of political chaos going on, so that definitely opens up a lot of opportunities for bids of connections. But what we know is couples that turn toward those bids of connections tend to be a lot more happier. And they're able to engage and have small conversations in those bids of connections, where unhealthy couples typically turn away from each other. And what's important about bids of connections is that when you realize that my partner isn't responding to my bid of connection, I stop putting out those bids of connections, and we end up becoming roommates. So make sure that you're turning toward each other. And the last one is practice rituals. And what we call a ritual is a ritual of connection, where we do something on a daily basis, maybe a weekly basis, an annual basis, to really stay connected. So imagine traveling through time with a couple for 45, 50 years. What do we do during those years to really stay connected? So being able to build those rituals of connection. And last but not least, if we're able to practice naps, we can get to this place. Where we can sit on the beach with our significant other and just be able to practice a healthy relationship and live life happily ever after. The Toastmasters.
All right, very helpful. Thank you. It's so much more enjoyable to listen to a relationship speech when our spouses are not here, right? We're laughing, we're nodding. Great point. That's awesome. It'd be very different. We'll move on. Our next speech is by Toastmaster Jonna Jacobs. It will be the Your Body Speaks presentation from the Confident Communication Manual, entitled Sit and Stretch. Sit and Stretch, Jonna Jacobs.
Sitting is the new smoking. Has anyone heard that before? Researchers are finding more and more that sitting increases the chance of contracting serious illnesses such as heart disease, diabetes, or blood clots. And like smoking, the prolonged long-term effects of prolonged sitting are not reversible. The only way to minimize the risk from prolonged sitting is to spend less time on our butts. Get it? Butts. Butts. But there are some stretches you can do right at your desk to increase your flexibility for your back and your hips. And I'll show you some of those movements. And we'll also mobilize some of our nerves to help open up those neural pathways. It's called nerve flossing or neural gliding. But first, a very quick and not at all comprehensive anatomy lesson. The hamstrings are actually a group of 3 muscles in the back of your thigh that connect at your pelvis all the way down to your knee. The piriformis is very deep in your buttock region. It's covered by your gluteus maximus, and it connects your sacrum to your outer hip. And then your sciatic nerve actually runs, this is very hard to control, by the way, it's connected at several places in your lumbar spine, and it runs all the way from there down to your toes. And as it sits under your piriformis, if your piriformis is irritated, it's going to irritate your sciatic nerve. And I'm sure you can guess that if your sciatic nerve is irritated, that's going to cause a lot of problems with pain. Then we'll also talk a little bit about how to undo the effects of some blocked neural pathways in your arm. The first stretch I want to show you is for your hamstrings. These are all things that you can do from a chair. You're going to sit on the edge of your chair, bend your leg. Follow along, please do. Follow along. And you want to keep your back straight. Try not to round out your shoulders or your back. And lean straight forward to close that angle between your torso and your leg. You should feel that on the back of your thigh. You may feel it as far down as the knee and as far up as your buttock. If you're feeling a stretch anywhere else, back off a little and get back to the point where you can just feel it on the back of the thigh. We tend to, especially the first few times we do this, tense everything up. I tense my thigh, so a lot of times I'll just kind of play with my thigh and make sure my quads aren't activated. And here's the thing about this stretch. You have to do it for at least 2 minutes. If you're going to gain flexibility, stretching for a minute or so is good, but to gain flexibility, you need to do it for at least 2 minutes so that that muscle becomes accustomed to that new range of motion. As you get better at this, it'll be maybe a little less painful. But this will actually help, this hamstring, even though it's the back of your thigh, will help your lower back pain. You can do this on both legs. The next thing is your piriformis. Cross your ankle over your knee. The same thing. Keep your upper body as straight as you can. And just close that angle between your torso and your hip. And you should be able to find that feel that right on your sits bone. And you'll know if you're activating the right muscle if it feels like a band going horizontally or left to right. If you're feeling it someplace else, kind of back out of it and go back into it. Do this on both legs. Again, for these 2 stretches, we're stretching muscles, and we're trying to gain flexibility, so do it for at least 2 minutes or longer if you can. Next thing I want to talk about is neural flossing or neural gliding. This is a way to re-innervate the nerves in your body. They kind of get gunked up when they're being pushed around by other muscles and joints. Extend your leg. This one is for our leg. Extend your leg. Push your heel out as far as you can and bring your toes toward you as far as you can. If you want to get a little more stretch with your back nice and straight, tuck your chin to your chest. Now when I do that, I can feel it all the way to the back of my neck. And you can let that go and do it for about 5 10 seconds each time, about 6 to 10 times per session. And that'll give that sciatic nerve a good flossing. The next one I want to talk about are the nerves in your arms. We have 3 major nerves in our arm: the median, the radial, and the ulna. And as you can probably guess, those correspond to the bones in your arm as well. Sitting at a computer all day, this will wreak havoc. So to activate our ulnar muscle, make an A-OK sign. Just turn it this way, that way. You should be able to feel that on the back of your arm. If you do it enough, you can make the Junior Birdman. Activate your ulnar, or your median. Put your arms straight out. Point your fingers down toward the ground. If you want a little more stretch, put your head to one side, or move your arm back. Radial, the same thing, except now your palm is down, down, up. Same thing. Tip your head if you need to. Your arm back if you need to. Dave's doing a good thing there. You can actually do both sides at once. Try to get your fingers as far apart as possible. So I've given you some strategies to do right at your desk that'll help increase your flexibility and mobility so that your sitting won't be your undoing. Thank you very much.
Great, very helpful. We'll just leave that picture up there. That's a very nice backdrop. Very helpful information in all of our speeches. I have actually been trying to sit less. I'm down to about a pack a day. I just messed that up. We'll move on. I want to let distinguished Toastmaster Adrian Duncan take a couple of minutes for the benefit of, we have about 3 guests, a couple of maybe first-time guests, just to explain your thoughts about the meeting. Tell us about how Toastmasters does evaluation in lieu of individual speech evaluations. Just let us know how we did as Toastmasters today. Our general evaluator is distinguished Toastmaster Adrian Duncan.
Thank you, Philip Gordon. Thank you, sir. Beautiful day. Fellow Toastmasters and most welcome guests, evaluation is the most important part of what you do in Toastmasters, with the exception of timing. Timing is of most value. I had a young friend of mine, his name was John Jacob. He went to make a presentation. They told him they wanted 29 minutes or thereabout. He spoke for 28 minutes and a half, and they paid him $1,000, round trip, hotel, and everything. If you believe Toastmasters is that good and great for you, I know a young lady, a new person here at Toastmasters, that did a presentation and earned $400, $500, and gave a portion of it as a memento to remember that what she did was Toastmasters help and assistance. The Toastmasters to me is the opening. If you noticed, we had a picture painted first, right? The second part of it to me was change. You need to change. For you to grow and develop skills is change. For you to live happily ever after, look at the map that you have in your heart, mind, body, and soul. And with closure, challenge someone to do something better. Did that make good sense? Think about it for a moment. We had a picture, right? Then we had change, right? Then we had something, a map where we could live happily ever after. And then closure, Toastmaster Borden says, what do we want to do better in our Toastmaster life? I'm challenging you, when you will take these bits of information to heart today, if you've forgotten some of the presentations, ask Brother Ken here, back there, this monitor, to allow you to work with another Toastmaster to go on the YouTube or our base blog, where you can look at them again and do an evaluation with a Toastmaster if you're a guest, or if you're 2 Toastmasters in here that really wasn't sure what could we benefit from. The 2 or 3 of you get together and do an evaluation, marking a sheet that is of the research or of the persuasion, or to inspire, or how to do a visual. What are visualizations? I'm challenging you today to take on that responsibility and take an opportunity to become a distinguished Toastmaster. If you're not already a Toastmaster, today is a great day to join to start fresh and new. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you. As always, for everything that we do in Toastmasters, time is of the essence. Our timer has been working busily trying to keep track of how all of our speakers have been doing in their time requirements. So here to give our timer's report is Toastmaster Joyce Biddle.
Thank you, Toastmaster Philip. First of all, we started on time. However, I did not time the Toastmaster as he stood. Beginning with Toastmaster Dave Rudney, he spoke for 8 minutes and 2 seconds. Toastmaster Scott Gann spoke for 8 minutes and 15 seconds. Toastmaster Charlie Simpson spoke for 7 minutes and 34 seconds. Toastmaster Jonna Jacobs spoke for 7 minutes and 26 seconds. It is now 12:48, and we are on time. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Well, this has been a good meeting. If you're a guest, I want to say thank you for being here, and I want to invite you back to any of our regular meetings. We meet here in the auditorium every Monday from 12 to noon. We normally don't try to schedule 4 or 5 scheduled speeches. We normally schedule 3 and have time for each of the speakers to get a spoken, delivered speech evaluation in front of everybody. And we also have table topics, which is an opportunity to hear from everyone else and to do some impromptu speaking, several other things, the word of the day, several other things that are included in a regular Toastmasters meeting that I hope you'll come back to experience. As far as today's meeting, I will turn things over to our presiding officer, Club President Scott Gann.
Well, good afternoon. Again, hey. I want to personally thank everyone for coming out. I know Mondays are usually hard days to get away. You're trying to catch up. It means a lot. We're trying to grow this club. We want everyone possible to join. It's a good fellowship. And if you're our honored guest, will you please stand up and introduce yourself? Put you on the spot. Okay, you don't have to stand up. Just tell me who you are. How's that? Hey, so you can just ride with me every day. See? Any other guests? You can't get out of it, see? Sarah, Monique, I hope you guys. Is there any other club business we would need to address?
All members. Yes.
On up. St. Vincent, right across the street.
Barbara Williams back.
Barbara! Love to have you back.
Not signed up for the speech contest.
Better sign up.
See Barbara and, I mean, no.
See Philip.
Philip and
All right, if there's nothing else we want to do, we will adjourn. It's 12:51. Thank you.